Hey guys, Saiyan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so upcoming on Global, we have the first of the new set of Extreme Super Battle Road stages that will start to unlock the medals to Easy A, the STR LR Trunks from the previous normal Super Battle Road stages. And the first one, stage 41, is going to be Exploding Rage. So there's been quite a few good units released recently that will be very good for this stage. We're going to go through a team building guide here. As always, with my guides, I will be going over my top picks and honourable mentions for units that I think will be useful in completing this stage. If there's any units you think I missed out or should have talked more about, let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you find the guide helpful at all, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So one thing to bear in mind when picking your units that you want to bring is all of the enemies are super types, and every single fight has a hybrid Saiyan, apart from the last one, which has just God Goku, right? So the first one, we have Gohan, who is a hybrid Saiyan, and a Goku family unit. This is relevant for some Extreme units passives, right? And then the second fight, we have a pure Saiyan and a hybrid Saiyan. And then the last fight is a pure Saiyan and a Goku family unit. So bear that in mind. Some of the units that we bring will get extra bonuses, so you want to leave those enemies till last if possible, so you can keep getting those full buffs. And this is another one of those stages where, because you only have one enemy at the end, units that can stun or seal are incredibly useful, because you just completely lock down the enemy's ability to do big damage to you. And it makes it all a lot easier. So, jumping straight in, we have Exploding Rage, pretty small category, I should say, in comparison to some of the other ones, but quite a few LRs, only a couple of options for the leader if we're talking about a proper Exploding Rage category lead. So one of the best ones now is probably the Kid Goku. Now, he has not returned on a banner on Global, so if you didn't summon on his original banner, then you potentially don't have this guy, but he does lead Exploding Rage for 170, and then he has Dragon Ball Seekers or Bond of Friendship as the extra 30%. There's not a ton of units on this guide that will get the full 200% leader skill from him, but Kid Goku is just a very good unit to use, even if you're not using him as the leader, right? He creates Rainbow Orbs, he gets extra stats, he gets damage reduction with the Rainbow Orbs, and if you pick up 7 orbs in total, you give the entire rotation 8% damage reduction, which is obviously very, very good. You're not going to get his unit super on this team. I don't think there's any units that actually fit into this category. And then his active skill, 8 or more attacks received, or HP is 59% or less, which is pretty easy to get in Extreme Super Battle Road. You could even go into the second or third fight under this HP restriction, and then you can just use his active skill on the first turn. So Kid Goku, definitely a top pick both for leader and just in general unit to bring on the team. Previously, the only standalone Exploding Rage lead was the Physical Beerus. Without his Easy A, he is pretty outdated now, but as a last resort for a leader, obviously you could use this guy. I would probably recommend not using him if you don't have to, but if you have to use him for the leader skill, then obviously he exists. Then we have the new God Goku from Saiyan Day. So if you pulled this guy, he's probably one of the best leaders to bring for this particular stage, because he's going to give pure or hybrid Saiyans the 170 lead, and then Exploding Rage is the category that gets the extra 30%. So if you're bringing a full pure or hybrid Saiyans team into this stage, they're all getting the 200% leader skill. And then obviously God Goku is just incredibly good, right? He has the dodge chance in slot 1. If you pick up 3 orbs, he has even more dodge. And then if you pick up 6 orbs, he has guard and a guaranteed additional super attack. So if you did pull this God Goku, this stage is going to be very, very easy for you. He is going to be incredible in this event. You can only transform with him on turn 5. Which is probably not going to happen very often in Super Battle Road, but if you do get to transform with him, he has the 70% dodge in slot 1 and then gets guaranteed crits with a bunch of additionals. So if you do get to turn 5, that's probably going to be a finisher, because remember, his transformation active skill actually does damage as well. So if you do end up seeing this, it's probably going to be to finish off the fight. So then we have this Vegeta, who is obviously the side banner unit for God Goku. He's going to be good in the stage anyway, but he is also an Exploding Rage lead for 130%. Not ideal to have a lower leader skill percentage, but obviously very good. Now on the team he will be good, right? Decent start of turn attack and defense, has guard for 5 turns, so that covers you pretty much for the entire fight. Each attack received, he builds up his attack and defense, and then if you get hit 3 times with him, once only, he gives all allies attack and defense 30% and all enemies attack minus 20% for 2 turns. So the support is really good, and especially because it's for 2 turns, so it affects the next rotation as well. But he's also debuffing the enemy's attack, which is something that is still very useful in Super Battle Road, especially when coupled with sealing. So the enemies can only do normal attacks, and you're debuffing their attack power. So definitely very, very good. And then he also transforms on turn 5 if he's taken a bunch of hits. So you're probably not really going to see his transformation very much either. His transformation really is designed for fighting movie bosses, which there are none of. So even if you do get to turn 5, it's probably not going to be best to transform him, because he'll still have guard on that turn. So he's going to be very good in this form, but probably wouldn't be transforming him. I think he's a top pick for the team, especially if you did get dupes for him. Then next up we have this guy, right? So the STR Vegeta and Bulma, the unit that I had a broken heart, mental breakdown over how bad his EZA is. However, he could be fairly useful in this stage, right? Because he seals and then counters. So in Super Battle Road, that's obviously pretty useful, especially if you can put him in front of only one enemy, seal that enemy, and then that enemy is only going to be able to do normal attacks. He has damage reduction against the normal attacks and then counters. He does get a lot more stats and built-in crit chance if there's a Vegeta family ally attacking in the same turn. So the ideal setup is to run these two together, right? Because they share a lot of links, and this guy's passive really benefits from getting that Vegeta family partner. And you have a rage mode when HP is 40% or less, which again, no turn restriction, so you could go into the second or third fight and just get this straight away. And then if you do transform, then obviously you have the free turn of damage where he can just chip away and do a little bit of damage to the enemies. Just basically focus on whoever's got the least HP if it's the multi-enemy fight, and try and get rid of them while you have the turn of free damage. So even though his EZA is pretty mid and pretty disappointing, definitely could be useful in this phase because of the sealing and the counters, especially if you are running these two together. But I probably would not run this guy without a Vegeta family ally on the rotation, of which there are not many of for Exploding Rage, but I probably will use the two of these guys together. So next up we have the Tech Carnival Goku, or Birdku as he's commonly known. His leader skill, I think you might be able to make a full Exploding Rage powerful comeback team, but having double Carnival Gokus is not great because of the revive. But the revive is something that does make him incredibly useful, right? His revival also has no turn restriction. It's if your HP is 59% or less at the start of the turn. So stuff like this is just really useful. I've mentioned it a couple of times already with active skills. Stuff like this is incredibly useful for Super Battle Road, because say you finish the second fight and you're on super low HP, you go into that last fight against God Goku, and if this goes on rotation, you don't need to worry. And if he just instantly kills you, you just revive and then carry on from there. So this guy, very, very good, has guard, takes a little bit of damage from the first hit and then gets a nice buff. So just very, very effective, very good in basically any Super Battle Road stage that he can be running. Not just his defense, as he gets hit, he builds up attack, he can do decent damage, and then obviously you have the revival, so very, very useful. Next up we have the STR Namek Goku. Not a super great Super Battle Road unit in general, right? He doesn't have any tech that makes him really good for Super Battle Road. He just has decent stats, gets a little bit of build up when he takes a couple of hits, and then obviously he transforms into Super Saiyan if you're at 77% or less HP starting from turn 3. Once he transforms, then he raises defense, he lowers the enemy's attack, which is pretty useful. And then once he gets hit once, he gets a nice attack buff. He has a chance to guard, and if he does guard, he then guards like permanently for, well, I say permanently, for 4 turns, which again, if you're already transforming on turn 3 and then he guards straight away, you've basically got guard for the rest of the Super Battle Road fight, right? So he will definitely be useful in those scenarios. So definitely a solid pick, probably not a top pick, but a solid pick if you're running a bunch of the other Goku or Super Saiyan units. And of course on the 200% lead for God Goku. Then we have the AGL LR Gohan. So this guy has never been the best for Super Battle Road because he's a stacker. He's more designed for longer form unit events. But with his Easy A, he does now have guard if you're above the HP threshold, as well as additional attacks. There's no androids enemies, so you can't transform with him. Although technically there is one android ally that you can bring that we'll talk about. I think he's like one of the later honorable mentions, who you could bring specifically just to try and get the transformation with Gohan, which could be an interesting strategy, because obviously, especially against the final fight where there's only one enemy, if you get him sealed or stunned and then transform with Gohan and just do a massive nuke, like, he's going to do a lot of damage, right? So this guy, very good link set, can definitely work well on the team. You just have to be careful with no defensive items up. He will still take damage from supers early on, and of course if he loses his guard, he can be vulnerable as well. But definitely a solid unit. Then we have the LR Ultimate Gohan. So his link set is a bit wonky, but he benefits from units like the Kid Goku creating rainbow orbs and stuff like that. He has guard for the first couple of turns if you have another bond of parent and child ally on the team, which, you know, most of the Goku units are on there, so very easy to do with some of the units that we've talked about already. Key can be an issue for him, but if you get the key, then he can be pretty good, right? Get the chance to do an additional super. Attacks effective against all types if you get to 24 key or you use the active skill. The active skill can be used on turn 3 if you have a full superheroes rotation, which I think is pretty much impossible to do with this category, so won't be seeing the active skill because otherwise it's turn 6 against one enemy. So maybe against God Goku, you might get to use it as like the finisher, but this guy could be pretty solid. I don't know if he's even a top pick just because of how he links with the rest of the team, but he definitely could be useful on the team for sure. So next up we have the physical Super Saiyan Bardock. Shout out to Minato, his favourite unit. Very good for Super Battle Road because he seals, greatly raises defense on Super. He's supporting. The first attack he takes is a little bit scary because he has to get hit and then he gets guard. Then he gets hit again and gets a big defense buff. So this guy can be very, very good. And just the fact that he seals while also supporting makes him very, very useful for the team. And if you don't have the physical one, the tech one, not as good in my opinion, because he doesn't support the team at all. He's just a nuking unit. He can get up to some decent numbers if you are picking up a lot of orbs with him, but he also seals, so just for that utility he can be useful on the team, and both of them are on powerful comeback, so those are other units that you can run on that team build if you need to run that team. But I definitely would take the physical one over the tech one. I probably wouldn't run the tech one at all in my build, but he can be a useful unit if you have less other options, just because the sealing is super useful, right? And orb changing can be good too, right? If this guy comes on rotation when you have Tech Carnival Goku, you're pretty much guaranteeing that Carnival Goku's getting a 24 key super, so definitely very useful. Then we have LR Broly, the good old classic. So he's got the AoE super, he gets a guaranteed additional super, he can definitely put out a lot of damage. He's one of the units I mentioned right at the beginning. If you have a pure Saiyan or hybrid Saiyan enemy, and then if there's a Goku family as well, he's going to be getting extra stats, getting effective against all types, so he can be pretty useful. The only thing is his defense is a little bit outdated now. I remember the last time I used him, I'm trying to remember which stage it was, but the for an ESBR no item run, and even after like a triple super, he was still taking quite a bit of damage from attacks. So his defense is not great anymore, but just from the sheer damage output, he can be pretty useful. And then in that last fight against God Goku, if you're sealing him, attack lowering him, all that stuff, then Broly will be able to survive some hits at least, while putting out some very solid damage. So he can be pretty good. Obviously we have the INT legendary Super Saiyan Broly as well, who again, if you have a pure Saiyan or hybrid Saiyan enemy, gets extra damage reduction and crit chance, so that can be very, very good. Can fire off a bunch of additionals. He's a bit RNG related, but he is actually getting finally a 200% leader skill from the new God Goku. So if you're running God Goku as the leader, you could run this guy on the team. God Goku's passive, to get his entrance animation, you can run one extreme unit on the team and still get his entrance animation buff. So you could run this Broly and he certainly could be very, very useful. Or there's of course the physical Broly who got his Easy A. People were a little bit down on his Easy A when it came out, but for Super Battle Road he definitely can be very good, right? He's got decent start of turn stats. He launches an additional attack that has a high chance to become a super. Oh no, sorry, that's one enemy. He gets a guaranteed additional super when there's two enemies. So for the first two fights, he's guaranteed double supering. then you could get the third one from the hidden potential. He's greatly raising his defense with each of those supers and hitting all the enemies with them. And then if you do get to turn 4, he transforms into the full power Broly, and then he just puts out a ton of damage, and you potentially finish off the fight with him once he transforms. So he definitely can be very good. I do still think God Goku's going to be the best leader, and as I said already, you can only really run one unit who's extreme to get the most out of God Goku. I would potentially run this guy over LR Broly. I'm not too sure, but I think overall, on average, his defense is going to be better, right? If he's getting this guaranteed double super that's greatly raising his defense. And of course, the Brolys have good links for these other units because he's going to be sharing things like Super Saiyan, Prepared for Battle, Fierce Battle. Like, he works decently well with super class Saiyan units, so he can be pretty good. Then we have Str Rose. So if you are running just a general Exploding Rage team and you don't have to worry about God Goku's passive for his entrance animation, this guy can be very good if you are running some of the Broly units, because he's providing them with 3 key and 50% extra defense. He greatly raises defense on his super attack. If you do manage to get a finishing blow with him against one of the first enemies in the multi-enemy fights, then he gets a nice buff for the rest of the fight as well. Although you'll probably be using him as a floating support unit, so even if he does finish off an enemy, chances are you finish the fight before you get him back on rotation again. But he can be solid. I probably wouldn't run him if I wasn't running the Broly units. And obviously if you're running God Goku, you only run one extreme. But he can be an interesting option if you're running the Brolys. Then we have this guy, World Tournament unit. So not everyone's going to have him, but he is a fairly decent super class allies support unit. Unfortunately, his lowering of extreme class enemies defense and getting an extra buff against extreme enemies doesn't factor in here. So he's definitely not a top pick, but he certainly can be a decent support unit. And then last but not least, we have this Hachan, who's from the Dragon Ball Saga banner that comes out with the World Tournament. He's a bit of a weird unit. He guards after receiving an attack. He has damage reduction that builds up with each attack he receives, but then he gets most of his defense stat for there being a Goku family ally on the team, which is pretty easy to do. Many of the units we talked about are Goku family. And then he has Dragon Ball Saga links, right? So you could run him on a rotation with the physical Kid Goku, and then these guys could be pretty good. And then because he's an android, having him on the team, he's the unit that will allow you to get the transformation to Super Saiyan 2 with LR Gohan. So there you go. Those are my top picks for Exploding Rage. The Prime Battle Gohan is okay as like a free-to-play option if you don't have any other leaders. Some of the other LRs, like Namek Goku, could still be alright. Janemba, decent defensively, but like he doesn't really have any good link partners for this team. A lot of the extreme units are just very outdated. Like AGL Cell is really good in Super Battle Road, but there's no other cells on Exploding Rage, so not a lot of units for him to link up well with. Fu would be good if you had enough time traveler allies, because he has built-in dodge and conceal, but most of his dodge and stats are based on time traveler allies, which there are not many of. So I feel like we went over most of the top picks. Obviously Kale's on here, but she's not out on global yet. So let me know what you guys think down below. Like I said, if there's any units you think I missed or should have talked more about, let me know in the comment section. And also let me know down below what your team is going to look like for Exploding Rage Extreme Super Battle Road. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.